So that's what I was looking forward to. You know, I want to say something. I just want to share something just real quick about the worship. And we've experienced that before. Now, again, I'm going to say this. I'm not saying this. I'm not saying that is anything wrong with the different songs or anything like that. But I'm going to tell you the way the Lord gave it to me for us, as for this ministry. When we worship God, we're going to sing one song to Him. Even if we have to sing it for 10 or 20 minutes. Does everybody understand? And that's usually the way we've done it, if that makes any sense. We'll sing one song to the Lord, and however long He feel like us sing to Him, that's what we'll do, and then we'll go right to... Does everybody understand what I'm saying now? And one of the things you know how some of these songs have come about? The song "Make Me Perfect." Make Me Perfect. How many of you remember that song? Do y'all remember how that came about? God had gave me a tune to play on the bass. I was playing it. And then Modesty started just sitting there. She just started singing. And then it seemed like somebody else came up with something else. And then somebody else came up with something else. And that was the song. And it was some people sitting there thought that was just something that we already had practiced and just had already knew. Now, I sincerely believe that's how the Lord want to do it. There may be times where songs are written out. He might give somebody a song beforehand. But then there'll be times where He just want us to sing to Him. And whatever comes to somebody. I just believe that's how the Spirit can move, if that makes any sense. And so I'm just looking forward to what the Lord is going to do. You see. And how He's going to do it. But my prayers is that we don't try to tell Him when to stop, if that makes any sense. And I mean, we don't get impatient. Okay, ain't nobody come up with a verse. Been 10 minutes. Ain't nobody. Okay, so the Lord, everybody understand what I mean? And you know, that's one of the things that's hard to get over with people. How many of you know, like, the different parts of songs? Like if you buy a CD and you open up the cover and the lyrics in it, it's gonna have a chorus, a refrain, a bridge. The Lord ain't into all of that. Everybody understand what I mean when I say that now? He just wants you to sing to Him. Now, I'm going to tell you about me. I'm the type of person, I can listen to a song 1,000 times and never get tired of it. Amen. If it's good, it's good. My wife will tell you, we'll listen to one song for 8 hours. If we driving, it's going to be that same song until I get tired of it. Everybody understand? I just, to me, especially if it's a song for the Lord, that's just where I can listen to. And so, the Lord don't want us to. Some of us, we got in our minds how to write a Lord a song. That's just simple. There ain't no up and down. There ain't no the Lord. That's flesh that want to do all that. Flesh is in the refrain, in the bridge, and all of it. God don't need a bridge. Amen. Does everybody understand? And what happens is if you sitting there, okay, Lord, so it's been 2 choruses. It's been now. Give me the bridge, Lord. Let me wrap this up. Give me the refrain. You ain't gonna get it. Does everybody understand?
Yes, sir.
Some of us, I'm talking to us. Some of us get bored with the same. We sung that already 20 times. And I don't mean song. I mean the words. We've already sung that. How many times are we gonna go over that? The Lord don't care nothing about you getting bored with what He want to hear. Amen. Does everybody understand? No, He can care less about your feelings when you singing to Him. Does everybody understand? Yeah, he don't care nothing about you getting bored. He's the one being sung to, not you. Does everybody understand that? I'm talking to us. Because some of us, after we done sung it the same words a few times, and you hear voices start dropping off. If I be quiet, then maybe they'll just stop singing and just let. That ain't never moved me, and it ain't never moved the Lord. Everybody understand? I think we're more blessed than what we know. I think we're more blessed the talent that the Lord have here, the music, and just how creative the Holy Spirit is in this ministry. Everybody understand? Just the creativity that's here. I was thinking about that, when I read that, because I think he had sent the poem, and I saw it, but I just think I was talking to my wife about something. I just thought I'll read this a little bit later. What Brother Linda had wrote. Then when I got in and got settled and I read that, I was like, man, that's the Lord. And just how how the Lord can give you something like that. And it's so profound. And folk, it'll take some folks days to write something like that. But when the Lord do it, it's just as quick as you can write.
Amen.
And I just think about the talent that the Lord has here, And I think we're really blessed. I believe that we're really, really, really blessed. I'm telling you, to me, just blessed in just the willingness to obey the Lord. Nobody was griping and complaining about going to Louisiana. Everybody just went. Okay, what day we're going? Okay, we're going. You see what I mean? Okay, if you just have to have sit in some of the mess I've sat in church. Why the bus ain't going? What, everybody understand? It's been all kind of board meetings going on behind the scenes. Why is the bus? What's the bus? Is that something, the object of worship or something that they can't move and they can't, And you know what I would say? Go ahead and take the bus. We'll see you sitting on the side of the road with a flat tire. Be like the Lord told Balaam, go ahead and go. You see. But I'm just grateful to the Lord that we're on one accord and that we don't have any mess. Amen. Like Brother Junior used to call them, business. How many of you know about business meetings? What they call business meetings in church? How many of you've heard of that? They do that about once a month. They have business meetings. It's really like a corporate meeting, like what goes on in corporations. They have business meetings where they discuss finances. Okay, Pastor, you ain't been bringing in new members. We about to dock your pay $50 a month. They talk about these things in church. Y'all never heard of that? Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah, you've seen it, huh? We're about to dock. The church ain't growing. Why we gotta keep paying you and it ain't growing? You're bad for business. Now you gonna have to perk up. It was a preacher. I'm serious. This is common. This is not. You can go to most of these churches and ask them about their business. They have what they call business minutes. The minutes where they go over what they discuss and they write them down in their notes. And you will see this in their notes. We made a motion to dock the pastor's pay. Or we made a motion to give him more money. Listen. It was when I was pastoring the church in Louisiana. It was a pastor who wanted me to start coming to his church to preach. His members got wind of it, and you know what they did? They held a meeting and told him because people started giving him the messages that I was preaching on CD, and he liked what he was hearing. And I guess they were afraid that he was about to start going the route as far as how I preach, going that route. and they told him the trustee board and the deacon board told him, you got until Friday at 6 p.m. to give us the notes that you're going to preach on Sunday. And we'll go over it and we'll tell you whether or not we approve. One of the biggest churches in my hometown. That ain't uncommon. That is not uncommon. You see. So, Brother Junior, one time, you might, if you watch most of those messages that we got of him preaching, you might have heard him say, talking about business meeting, he said, if you're going to have a mess meeting, I'm not going. Why? Because these same type of people, they wrote in their bylaws that he could not preach in their Baptist churches. You know why? Because he preached 1 John 3. He who commits sin is of the devil. They did not accept it. Did not accept it. And when he preached that message, they all those Baptist churches got together down there and they wrote it in their bylaws that he was not allowed to preach in their churches. This is the kind of stuff that goes on in church. And to them it's normal. See, because they run in Stonehurst Asylum. Does everybody understand? Yeah, it's normal for them. You would be surprised. That's what I'm saying. Some of you don't know how blessed you are, that you ain't got to deal with that kind of foolishness. But to them, it's common. That's just all they know. It's been business meetings since I've been growing up. We always had business meetings, you know. So that's what's got a lot of folks that's outside of church bitter, you know, and things like that. That's the reason why they just think that everybody that have church is that same way. You know, they assume when you're gathering at a building, y'all have a business meeting too, and y'all, you know, except we're not. And we may have meetings where we discuss different things like that, but we know God is running His ministry. You know, and now, do you know what's crazy about business meetings? Let me tell you another thing. That's what they have accepted as the norm for business meetings. You know, if that ain't crazy enough. So say, for instance, all of us in here, we're part of this ministry, right? Let's say, for instance, some of you are not pleased with me. So let's say, for instance, it's 41 of y'all, all together in here. 41 people in this room. I'm just using that as an example. I don't know how many people. Let's say it's 41 people in here, right? And let's say 21 of y'all don't want me as a pastor anymore. So y'all get together and y'all say, okay, we need to have a business meeting and we're going to take a vote. So you know what happens before business meeting? Politics. Brother Pooja, which way is your vote going to swing? Well, let me come to you. You like them cakes that I make, right? Well, I'm going to bring a cake to you. I'm going to bring you a cake. And I'm going to talk to you about what I think is wrong with Brother Bolden. Because we need your vote. So business meeting comes, but the other side is working as well. I'm telling you, this goes on. I've seen it. And this ain't just one church in Podunk DeRitter. This is all over the world. So the other side is working as well. Well, you know, okay, I saw you at Brother Pujo's house. What you over there talking about? Okay, so I'm gonna go to somebody on the other side. Well, so what you like to eat? You like that pecan candy I make? Let me make you some pecan candy and bring. Since they trying to get Brother Pujo, I'm gonna get somebody that's on your side. Before the meeting. Wait a minute. Brother Tank's car is broke down. He might not make it to the business meeting. Let me call him and make sure he get a ride there, because I know how he's going to vote. I'm telling you what I've heard with my own ears and what I've seen. Now, Brother Tanks ain't been to church in 2 years. His car been broke down. Ain't nobody gave him a ride. If people knew what went on behind the scenes, I'm going to tell you something. How many of you ever been in a church where there's no power? That's the reason why. because of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. You think, oh, the pastor up there praying, but ain't nothing good happening. Why not? Everybody understand? That's the reason why. Because of the stuff. You think God's going to come in and move in the service when y'all voting whether or not you're going to keep a pastor, or voting whether or not, we're going to pave the parking lot again and all of that stuff? Does everybody understand? Now, so Brother Tanks ain't got a car. He ain't been to church in 2 years, but he ain't withdrew his membership. So we're going to get him to come to the business meeting. The folks on the other side know. Okay, so I see y'all done hooked back up with Brother Tanks. Now y'all trying to, and because he haven't withdrew his membership, he's technically still a member here. So, okay, we'll let that ride. Come on to church, Brother Tanks. We got something for that. So when they vote, so Brother Tanks, everybody that want Brother Bolden as pastor here say aye. And Brother Tanks said, aye, I love Brother Bolden.
I love Brother Bolden.
But they done got Brother Pujo to work against it. So Brother Pujo has been designated to stand up and say, well, Brother Tanks, Sister Secretary, Sister Money Secretary, can you open the books and let's see when was the last time Brother Tanks paid tithes? Oh, okay, so yeah, so you're a member, Brother Tanks, but you're not a member in good standing. So your vote, you can't vote here. Because you have no stock in this church. You ain't paying tithes here. Now y'all see why people pay tithes? Because all they're really doing is buying a stake in the church. They're buying their ability to vote and control and run the church. So everybody understand now? You see how blessed we are not to have all that extra junk? I'm telling you, y'all do know this is everywhere. This is everywhere. I'm not picking on one, but this is everywhere. Deacon meetings, trustee, board of trustee, all of that, So of course, God is not pleased with that. And then and you know what's crazy? These people will be bitterly against each other. Bitterly. That's why if you walk in the church and you pay attention, you see half of them happy and they praising God, and some of them sitting there with their arms folded. Why? Because we got outvoted in the last business meeting. And you know what they do? What some of them will do? Well, you know what? And I've been paying tithes here for the last 30 years, and I can't. Okay, well, I'm gonna take my money and go somewhere else. And so now, let's bring in the pastor. Let's bring in the hireling. He comes in, he knows, okay, so I got to make everybody happy. Now you know what produces these happy-go-lucky messages. Everybody understand? Okay, so Brother Tanks was going to vote for me. If he did vote for me, but his vote didn't count. Brother Tanks got a gay uncle. I'm not going to preach against gays. Not if I want Brother Tanks to continue to support me. You see now. That's why them preachers can't preach righteousness and holiness. It's too much stuff going on behind the scenes that dictates how they are with people. That's the foolishness. It goes on week after week, month after month. And people can't wait to have a board meeting. Can't wait. I can't wait because I just saw something I didn't like. I've seen some ugliness, y'all. And God is not pleased with that. I'm glad that that's not the way we operate. And truth be told, that's the reason why some people wouldn't be able to stand to be a part of this ministry. because they have no say-so. You know, they're used to all the foolishness and, you know, having a voice. You know. Some of you might need to talk to your parents. I bet they know what I'm talking about. I guarantee you they know what I'm talking about. Some of y'all just not old enough to have been in all of that. All you saw was mom and daddy walking to the door and going to church. You didn't know what they were going to do. But I've seen it. I've sat in it. I've seen it. I've sat in a mess meeting where one deacon, so it was a pastor that had took over a church and didn't take over it. I mean, he just became the pastor there. But there was some people there that didn't want him there. The pastor of this church, he had a vision that the Lord gave him for the church, the direction. But you know how it is. I didn't want you here, so I'm not going to go along with anything. I'm going to make your life as miserable as I can as long as you're here. I'm going to make you quit. So he would talk to the people and say, look, I believe the Lord wants us to do this. Now, they did things the way they did them. We need to get an approval. You know, I need to get somebody to write the check because the pastor couldn't write checks on his own. So I need to get somebody to write the check for me and all of that. So you had these two factions in the church. That's what Paul is talking about. You see, when he talks about things like that. These two factions. One of them was all for the pastor. This is our pastor. If he's leading us, let's follow whatever vision. The other group said, well, no, the group that was controlling the money. No, that's our pastor. We didn't want him here. So you know what happened? What came up in business meeting? A mess meeting, and Taylor was sitting there. She might not remember. But I had the people to, I told Taylor and Treasure, y'all go ahead and go outside before it go down in here. The people that didn't like the pastor, they controlled the money. So the other people, you know what they did? They ordered a different checkbook. And so, of course, you know checkbooks, they started, 100? So if you got two sets of them, and this was the discussion, why do we have two checks, 120 and 120, being cashed from the same account? It's because the two factions each had their own checkbook that they were writing from. This faction that didn't like the pastor, they were doing things behind his back that he didn't know about. Let's purchase this. We don't care. We don't need him, you know. The other faction, they were doing the same thing, but with the pastor's approval. Pastor, can we get this? Or is this okay? You see what I'm saying? And so one of the deacons stood up and said, brothers and sisters, I can't be a part of this. Now, if y'all going to keep operating like this, I'm going to withdraw my membership and I'm going to go somewhere else. He said, because y'all going to make the IRS come in here and they going to clamp down on us. These are the types of things. Listen, when flesh is in church, flesh is in there. Does everybody understand? These are the types of things that, so, you know, I feel bad for people, but I understand really why people, they just prefer to stay at home. And I'm going to tell you, that would be me. If I got to go to a messy church, I'm going to be at messy home. Everybody understand? I just won't be a part of it at all. I'll sit home and wait on the Lord to come back. And that's why, you know, I've talked to people, and they'll ask me, Brother Bolden, is there a church up here like yours? I don't know, brother. Because I got a fellowship. No, you ain't got the fellowship anywhere. You ain't got the fellowship with devils. You ain't got to go to the devil's church just to say that you in church somewhere. I'll stay home before I go and be a part of something that God ain't in anyway. Everybody understand? Because I sincerely believe if you have a sincere heart for the Lord will tell you where to go. Where it ain't got all that going on. Yeah, he'll tell you where to go, you see. But these are the things that go on in church. This is what people are turned off at. And they assume that every church got that same mess going on in it. That's what they assume. They assume that it's every church, and it's not so. So that's why I say I believe that we're really blessed to not have all of that, you know. And my prayers is that people will come out of that. I sincerely believe. Now, here's where a lot of it. I believe sometimes God raises up men to start a church. But the problem is when that man of God is gone, his church goes into disarray. Everybody understand what I mean when I say that? Because folks fighting over who's going to be the next pastor. And then when their favorite preacher don't win, you know, whatever arm wrestling competition go on to become the pastor, then I'll just leave. I sincerely believe if a man of God is really a man of God, he knows he's about to leave here, it ought to be just like it was in the Word of God. God told Elijah, you go anoint Elisha to be the prophet in your stead. And it wasn't nobody's vote in it. I don't care if it's your cousin. I don't care that you got 20 cousins in church preaching. That ain't who I call to take your place. Everybody understand? Moses had 2 sons who were grown when the Lord took him. And neither one of them replaced him. Does everybody understand? But that's what's wrong with church today. I won't mind, you know, they've been here the longest. That's your kin. How you overlooking your kin? What does God care about it? You see. So that's the problem in church today. Is people wanting to run it. That now do we understand? Let's go to the book of Revelation real quick. I think it's the 3rd chapter of the book of Revelation. I just want to show you now, since we've gone into detail. No, it's the 2nd chapter of the book of Revelation. And I hope now that we'll understand a little bit better what this is talking about. Is everybody there? All right, let's start reading at verse 12.
And to the angel of the church of Pergamos write, these things said he which hath a sharp sword with 2 edges. I know thy works, and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is, and thou holdest fast my name, and hast not denied my faith. Mm-hmm. Even in those days wherein Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you, where Satan dwelled. But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children.
Okay, read that again, verse 14.
But I have a few things
against thee,
because thou hast there.
Y'all got some folks there.
Them that hold the doctrine of Balaam.
Hold the doctrine of Balaam. Does everybody understand what the doctrine of Balaam is? Continue to read.
Who taught Balak?
Taught what?
Balak.
To do what?
To cast the stumbling block.
What was this stumbling block? What is the doctrine of Balaam? If you remember, Balak wanted Balaam. Balak was the king who was over the land that Israel was going to be passing through on their way to the promised land. Balak had heard about the God that was among the Israelites, and he wanted no part of it. So Balak understood that whatever Balaam the prophet said, it would come to pass. So Balak offered Balaam the prophet money to curse the people. Now, of course, you know the story. Balaam goes, God comes to Balaam and says, who are those people that's with you? Oh, they want me to curse. They're just some folks that want me to curse Israel. And God says, well, you can't curse without blessed. So don't go with them. So then they come back to Balaam and say, well, Balaam, we'll give you all this prestige and power if you'll just curse these people, because we know that whatever you say come to pass. So then Balaam said, okay, well, let me go and pray to the Lord about this. So Balaam prays, and God says, okay, go ahead and go. Of course, you know the story. He goes, and the angel of the Lord is standing in the way to kill him. Balaam goes up to the mountain. He's looking down on Israel. He prophesied. He intended on speaking something evil, but God takes over his mouth to where he can't. Then so I can't bless them. I can't curse them looking down on him. Let me go down in the valley and look up at him. He goes down in the valley, look up at him, and he's thinking, well, I'm a curse. I'm now behind them, and I'm looking up at them. I can curse them from this angle. And he opens his mouth, and God takes over again, and he can't curse him. So now he understands God's will is stronger than mine. I don't even have control over my own mouth to curse God's people. Now, that is an example of what we mean when we say you can't, what the word says, you can't bless what God, or you can't curse what God has blessed. Now, why did I bring up the different angles that Balaam was trying to speak against the children of Israel from? Up in the mountain, down in the valley, to the left, to the right, all of that. What are these different angles I'm talking about? People will try to find anything in your life to say you're not a believer. That what you experience is not real. Does everybody understand? Does everybody understand that? Anything. And listen, even the devil will bring you stuff. Will bring you stuff to get you to curse yourself. Does everybody understand? I'm telling you, and I pray that we receive it today, it's time for us to stop listening to the devil and accepting the devil's curses on us. Some of us bow past. Well, I felt like I was delivered 2 years ago, but that didn't work. It didn't last, so I don't know. God don't want you sneaking around, tiptoeing your deliverance. Does everybody understand? So, Balaam was a very, very smart man. He understood, just like the devil understood in the book of Genesis. I can't just kill Adam and Eve. I can't stand them, and I want them dead. I know they're God's prized possessions. I can't just kill them, but you know what I can do? I can make them be disobedient and cause God to kill them. So the doctrine of Balaam was this. Balak, I can't curse. I can't do what you're telling me to do because God won't let me curse these people. But they're not all the way sanctified yet. They've been brought out of Egypt and out of bondage, but they ain't in the promised land yet. The gods of Egypt, they still familiar with that. Fornication, they still familiar with that. So here's what you do. It's got some men in that camp that's just as lustful as anybody. And I don't understand why God won't let me curse these people. He know they dealing with some of that stuff. So what you do is you bring some prostitutes in that camp and get them to worship Baal the way that you do. And then God will curse them. That was the doctrine that was taught. And that's exactly what happened. How many of you remember the story when the men of Israel in this group here, they were sleeping together in the camp? Not the men were sleeping with the prostitutes in the camp. And Phinehas, I think Phinehas was the grandson of Aaron. He took his sword or his spear and went and stand. Now the whole camp of Israel are watching these people have sex in the middle of the camp. Because now to us it's strange, but to them it was just the way that they worshiped their God. Does everybody understand that? But to them it wasn't strange because that's what they saw the Egyptians do as well. They had sex in the temple. So Phinehas, he took his spear and he killed the man and the woman that was having sex in front of all those people. God had already started moving among the camp and taking their life with a plague. Phinehas saw that and he said, okay, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to see if I can stop God. And he went and killed those people, and God honored him for it. And God said, because you did that, you and your seed, you're going to always have a place in the priesthood. Your seed is going to always be in the priesthood. How many of you remember that story? That's part of, if you remember what we read in the 10th chapter of the book of, 1 Corinthians, The people sat down to eat and then they rose up to play. That was part of what was going on there. They sat down to eat, they rose up to play, they dancing, and folks in the middle having sex. So that was the doctrine. Does everybody understand? That was the doctrine of Balaam. You can't curse what God have blessed, but you can get folks to curse themselves by disobeying God. All you got to do is trick them into doing it. Does everybody understand? Now, I'm going to just say this since we're here. Like I said, in those days, it was not uncommon. When people worship Baal, that was part of their worship. We're going to have sex in the temple. And they felt like it would be a blessing. Now, if you understand the Baal system, that God is several gods under him. One of those gods is the god of Astarte, what we call Easter. Some folks, so let's say, for instance, they're not necessarily fornicating in the temple. In other words, they're married. Me and my wife want to have a baby. What better way for God to bless us with a baby but to have sex right in church? God's got to come down and give us a baby then. So you know what God they had sex to in the church? The god of Ashtaroth. Or Astarte, depending on what language you're speaking. Again, we call it Easter, which is where the eggs come in at. The god of fertility. Everybody understand? Now, read verse 14 again and we'll make this make sense.
But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block.
To cast what?
A stumbling
Before
block.
who?
Before the children of Israel.
My own children. Go ahead and keep reading.
To eat things sacrificed unto idols. And to commit fornication.
All right. So the Lord says, I have a few things against you. Because you have there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block. Now, how many of you have ever seen churches that celebrate Easter? That hide Easter eggs for the little children. How else are they children? They don't know. Just let them have fun. How many of you seen churches that put up Christmas trees? And you find them in verse 14. The stumbling block. You have there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam. Everybody understand what I'm saying now? God ain't never told anybody to celebrate Easter. He ain't never told anybody to celebrate his birthday. He ain't told anybody to cut down a tree and put it up in a church. Or in their house for that matter. And so the churches that do this, they find themselves in verse 14 here. You've done this good, you've done that good, but I have a few things against you. You in that old Baal worship system. Does everybody understand? And we've talked about this before with Christmas. It's so much of the devilment, you'd just be surprised if God ever opened your eyes up to it. How many of you heard of the gingerbread man? So what is that associated with? Do y'all know what does the gingerbread man look like? A child. Why does it look like a child? Because one of the ways they worshiped Balak, they would take their own flesh and blood children, and they would bring their child up, and Balak would have Molech he was a statue that sat up at the top of this staircase, like this. And in his lap, there would be a fire. And the children and the adults would bring their children and lay their child on that fire and let their child cook. I can't remember. I think it might be Isaiah or Jeremiah that talks about passing children through the fire. So what are we doing on Christmas? when we're making little cinnamon bread, the dough, and then shaping it like a child, and then putting it in the oven. Same thing. You find that in verse 14. But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam. Balaam's been dead, but folks still doing what they've been taught to do. You holding on to it. Everybody understand? Who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block. You see that? See how all this stuff, that's the way God look at it. That's a stumbling block. I'd move in your church if you stop celebrating Christmas. I'd move in your church if you stop all that foolishness. I didn't tell you to do that. Everybody understand now? Go ahead and read now.
But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols.
Everybody see that? Go ahead and keep reading.
And to commit fornication. So hast thou also them that hold the doctrine of the Nicolaitan.
The doctrine of who?
The Nicolaitan.
Which thing what?
Thing I hate.
What does not Nicolaitan mean? The people have rule. Nico means rule. Latin is the word where we get our word laity from, meaning the common people. The idea is the people are running the church instead of God designated leader. And that's what we've been talking about. The business meetings and the voting and all of that. That's the doctrine of the Nicolaitan. That's the people running the church instead of God leader running it. Everybody understand? And that's what happens when, how many of you have ever had that talk with folks about Halloween? Don't send your children out there trick-or-treat. What'd they say? These are children. They don't know any better. I was a child. I celebrated, and I turned out okay. And those are the same type of people that you deal with in church. I grew up celebrating Christmas. Yeah, I know it's not in the Bible. Yeah, I know it's pagan, but I'm doing this unto the Lord. Everybody understand? Folks will tell you that with a straight face. I ain't trying to be funny. I'm going to celebrate my Christmas. Everybody understand? Y'all, I'm trying to show you it's the devil. You see how it's like the church ain't got a chance. Not when you got folks voting. You could have a righteous preacher coming in and like, no, we're going to start over from scratch. Let Brother Deacon start reading from Genesis. And anything we don't see in here that we ain't going to do. I think that's the only way to go. We start over from scratch. Everybody understand? If we don't sit in here, let's not do it. But what happens is, there's some folks in there, they celebrated Christmas their whole life and they don't see nothing wrong with it. I'm going to celebrate my Christmas. That's for the children. You're going to take away their innocence. No, we're going to stop them from taking on the same lion spirit you got. Now, if you don't want your children to know ain't no Santa Claus, don't bring them around me. If that's what it takes for them to be innocent, they going to just be as raggedy as they can be. Now, you know what? You want me to tell you what's crazy? These same folks that talk about the innocence of children, they'll send them right to a prom and let them lose their virginity. Everybody understand? Try to give them, don't go out. You just, you remember you saved, right? Okay, so when you out there juking to whoever, just remember that. Does everybody understand? And then wonder why these children got that clubbing in them. When they turn 19 and 20, they can't stay out of a club. Because they were going to the club in the 7th grade. In the 8th grade. Does everybody understand? All these little dances, I'm telling you, it's the devil. Well, wait, why y'all turning the lights out? Does everybody understand? What you think they in there doing? the lights out and you got folks standing way off a mile away trying to look at to be a chaperone. Do you see how the devil set us up? How many of you seen that? You know, seen that in movies where they haven't talked with their children. You know, especially the little girl, the teenage girl. She going out and they gonna scare the man. You know, like don't you do nothing now. You have my daughter back here by midnight or whatever. How many of you seen that? I'm gonna scare you. Or how about just keeping her home? Everybody understand? Just keep her home. Isn't it that simple? I'm going to send you to the devil's playground and then tell you get everybody saved when you get there. You dancing the Holy Ghost now. They going to be dancing to a little John now. But you just think about these church songs we've been hearing your whole life. You see what I'm saying? But we're going to protect their innocence. Don't tell them Santa Claus ain't real. You see how deceived the devil is? So y'all see, so somebody tell me where we live at now. We down in the basement. Telling folks, look, we the real doctors. We the real nurses. Everybody else is crazy. Does everybody understand what I mean when I say that now? I got to show you the bizarro world. You see. Because to me, if you're that worried about your child's innocence, to me, let's just, speaking from a natural standpoint, if you raise your daughter right, and you're confident in what you raised because you've been living an example, why wouldn't you trust that she got some sense when she go out with a man? I'm just speaking naturally so. You ought to trust what you've raised. Unless it's something really on the inside of you that know that's not right. Does everybody understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that ain't right. And but you don't want to break her heart. You know, everybody else going to prom. Everybody else got their Easter dress on, you know, that they going don't want to break her heart. Because this is just a one time. She's a senior. Somebody finally asked her out. You know, I'm telling you, there are some adults that will fight you over this very issue. Well, when I was I was pregnant when I was in a senior. I couldn't go. I was sick. I had malaria, whatever. You know, they come up with. I'm going to send all my children to prom, you know. How many of you know them parents? You know, I missed out and That's adults trying to live vicariously through their children. That's what that is. Get over it. Get over that mess. You still alive, ain't you? Okay, so you survived it.
Somebody got sent pregnant. You gonna go. With heels on.
You know, and see, this is the issue with people when they're not all the way in. This was the issue with the church at Pergamos. They had a form of godliness where they knew about how to do some things right, but they didn't allow the Lord to just continue to lead them.